Hello and welcome to Horror Talks. I am here with horror author Rami Ungar. Rami, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for pronouncing my name right.
You're welcome.
It gets so many people confused and tongue-tied. I'm so used to it, I could give Adina Menzel tips.
I'm not gonna lie. I did practice quite a few times, and I found an
I
interview
appreciate
online.
that.
I have an interesting last name too. Not quite as interesting as your name, so I know what it's like when people don't pronounce your name right.
It
But
is a burden we bear with pride and dignity.
Honestly, like I feel like it's a good thing though. So if you are an author and you want recognition, it's better to have a name like Rami Unger than a name like Joe Schmo. You know what I mean? So it's not gonna be swept under the rug. People are gonna be like, hey, that's a cool name. Like I'm gonna try to pick up these books and see what these are about. So you're not gonna forget it. That's for sure.
Ruth.
So I wanted to start off by asking you, so how did you get into horror in general? Like, were you a big fan of books or movies or both?
Oh, I was always a big fan of books. Ever since I learned to read, I just ate through them. But when I was like 11 or 12, I discovered Stephen King, specifically It. Um, we were on vacation in Delaware, visiting my grandparents, and uh, we're a pretty bookish family, so we went to a bookstore to see if we could find something that interested us. I was just getting out of a big Anne Rice phase and was looking for something similar. My mom was like, maybe you might like Stephen King. So I recognized the name It. I'd seen the movie version, or I guess at that time it would have been the TV miniseries version at a cousin's house. So I got it, not really realizing it was 1,100 words,
Yeah.
pages, pages. Started reading and started having nightmares about Pennywise coming up to the window of the house we were renting and tapping on the glass in my room,
No.
the glass window of my room. And but I kept reading. I was as entranced as I was terrified, and I ended up finishing the book at camp about a month later. And I remember just sitting there on the porch of my bunk of my cabin and just thinking to myself, these are the kind of stories I want to write for the rest of my life. I already knew I wanted to be an author, but and then I knew what genre I wanted to go into. From then on, I just devoured King, I devoured Kuntz, I devoured what as much as I could get my hands on, and here I am today. I'm 30 now, and I'm lucky enough to have 5 books out, and I'm working on getting more out.
That's amazing. It's so interesting that you say that. A lot of people say that they get into King, like, like you said, 11, 12 years old. 11 and 12, I'm still reading Goosebumps. You know what I mean?
Oh, I read those too when I was a kid, but and I don't think they. I mean, they might have made me a bit more receptive to King, but I don't think they were as powerful an influence as he was.
Oh yeah, no, I can imagine. I just think I didn't start reading Stephen King until I was well into adulthood. So I'm always impressed when I hear people at such a young age would pick up something like it, which is dictionary sized.
Well, at that time, I had read the fifth Harry Potter book like maybe 3 times already, and then that thing's like nearly 900 pages. So
That's
1,100, uh, not that much skin off my back.
yeah, pish posh. What's 1100 pages? Um, so that was kind of when you started with Stephen King and Dean Koontz and things like that. So what right now would you say would be your favorite horror book?
Oh, that's easy. Kill Creek by Scott Thomas. I
No
love.
way.
Yeah, I read that book a few years ago on audio, and oh my God, it made my October. It was so good. I've listened to it several times since then, and have the paperback now on my shelf. And I
Like two somewhere.
no, I see it.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is so good. I love how Thomas approaches the idea of the haunted house as well as how it gets power. It's really interesting. I also am a big fan of The King in Yellow by Robert Chambers. That book lives in my head, rent free, but in a good way. I
Oh,
just love the idea of you read a play and it infects your mind, and depending on how you look at it, it's either this alien god emperor or influencing you, or it's designed in such a way that it causes mental instability.
oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's selling it pretty well. I've never heard of that book, but it's something I feel like I need to pick up now that you mention it.
It is really good. If you it's about this play called The King in Yellow, which the second act is considered so disturbing it drives you insane, and it's all about this figure named the King in Yellow. It's a collection of short stories. The first four are really the only ones you want to focus on. The rest are just kind of like other works by the author, but it's those first four that really gets the imagination pumping. H.P. Lovecraft actually found it to be an influence on his own work,
Oh, wow. Well, that's
and
pretty.
it does not surprising that the King in Yellow has also kind of been integrated into the Cthulhu mythos. You might have heard of Hastur the Unspeakable. That's
Mhm.
kind of the King in Yellow's code name in the Lovecraft universe.
No way. Oh, there you go. There's a little bit of horror history for you horror nerds out there. I love that. I think that's really interesting. Um, so don't judge me, but I have never read any H.P. Lovecraft, but I did visit his grave in Providence, Rhode Island, which I think is very cool.
I am jealous of you. I'm jealous of people who've been to Providence and been able to do that. I hope someday to be able to do that, but the stars have just not aligned
Yeah.
right. And those of you who have read Lovecraft are hearing that are laughing and rolling their eyes because it's a reference. But
And I'm like,
yeah,
mm, great.
it's not the worst. It's not the worst thing if you haven't read Lovecraft. I mean, he does take some getting used to, both in terms of style and content, in more ways than one.
I've heard a thing or two about him, but this
But
interview is about you though today. So
yeah.
so out of curiosity, just quickly before we move on, do you watch horror movies at all? Like, is that
Oh yeah.
yeah, you're a big fan. So
Most of the movies I go see are horror movies. I
oh,
actually have like six I consider my favorites. Prince of Darkness,
mhm.
1987 John Carpenter is one I constantly recommend. I feel like it's an underappreciated masterpiece. Uh,
Oh, I'll have to add that to my list too.
it's really good. I also like The Color Out of Space from 2020, based on one of Lovecraft's most famous stories. It is just, honestly, it's terrifying in so many ways. It's I could go on and on about it. What's another one? Overlord from 2018. Only time Nazi zombies have actually been scary, in my opinion. And it works.
Usually not a fan of the Nazi zombies, but in this case,
Yeah, I would recommend it. It's a great movie.
cool. I have only started, so I'm not really into movies too much myself. Like I'm really strictly books, but if I read a book that's been made into a movie, then I'll watch it. So I read Pet Cemetery for the first time, and then watched the movie. I'm like, that's amazing. I can't believe this old and I have never seen Pet Cemetery in my entire life, but I'm definitely missing out. I feel like,
Well, if it makes you feel better, I think a lot of people older than either of us have not seen Pet Cemetery or a lot of great horror movies. I know my parents haven't.
well,
They're
that's
not, yeah, they're very surprised that I became a horror author. Granted, my mom doesn't think Stephen King is horror for some reason, and that's why she encouraged me to read him, but yeah.
And I mean, I guess it's not for everybody, you know. A lot of I
It's an
read a
acquired
lot of things.
taste.
Like I don't know if you can see any of the titles here, but not all of them are horror. I read a lot of things. It's just horror is, you know, my main interest now. It's not for everybody, which is okay. Not everybody likes the Nazi zombies.
Or the serial killers, or the spooky ghosts, or the cosmic entities whose very visage causes insanity, even as you struggle to try and figure out what exactly you're looking at.
It's funny, you just named my very favorite three horror tropes, like one in a row, like in order of how I love them. So well done.
I
um,
must be psychic.
I guess so. Like maybe that's a horror movie where, you know, a guy you're interviewing is psychic and then murders you. Oh, please don't. Please don't. Anyway. You don't know where I live. so so out of curiosity,
Why?
well, it was nice talking to you. Thank you so much. I have to go move quickly. um, okay, so I do want to kind of move on, even though this has been a fun conversation. So in terms of the writing process, you said that, you know, you've already, you know, talked about kind of what your inspiration is for becoming a writer. So what is a day in the life like now? Because I know a lot of indie authors, you know, writing is kind of a side gig and you have a whole like life and you have to try to fit the writing in. Is that what it's like for you?
Yeah, at the moment it is. I have a day job, but I spend most evenings writing. I'll get off work around 4 o'clock. I'm depending on if I'm in the office or if I'm working from home that day, will determine what I do after work. Uh, but at some point, I make dinner, and I usually get on my computer and I try to do some writing. I usually aim for about 500 words per writing session, but I usually end up hitting a higher number, sometimes over 1,000. And generally, that's how I get my stories done. And I also usually have something to drink, usually tea or soda. Though on weekends I'll have something a little boozy. I'll also burn some incense in the background just because it relaxes me. And I usually have some sort of music playing. It depends a lot on the story in question. Um, and as well as my mood. For the story I'm working on right now, I'm actually listening to the complete works of Robert Johnson, who, if you don't know, famous blues singer who's rumored to have sold his soul to the devil. But that has nothing to do with the story in question. It just feels right for the mood. I also listen to a lot of 80s music because I just love that era
Yeah,
of
who doesn't love
music, and as well as the soundtracks from my favorite musicals. I'm a big fan of Broadway musicals.
nice. What's your favorite? Just very quickly. I know it has nothing to do with horror.
Oh God, that is a tough question.
Sorry.
It's
It wasn't
fine.
a planned question, so you don't have to answer it.
I guess if I had to bite the bullet, I would have to say, you know what? I don't know. It's
That's
I
okay.
just
That's okay.
I just love so many. I mean, I love Sweetie Todd. I love Beetlejuice. I love Six, the musical. Come From Away, the Book of Mormon.
That's amazing. Sweeney Todd was one of my favorite shows for like forever. So we have that in common too. Um, so so you told me that you have a short story collection called Hannah and Other Stories. So I hear there are some interesting stories you can tell us about this book.
Yeah, for those of you who aren't aware, Hannah came out about a month and a half ago. It's seven short stories and novelettes that I put together. They were stories that I had a lot of love for, that I thought were really good and had a lot of potential, but I was having a lot of trouble finding a home for any of them. So I decided, hey, why not put them into a collection and see if I could get them published? I did that. I edited them one more time. I started shopping around. BSC Publishing Group, a fairly new publisher, but they their founder, who I know very well, who had one hell of a sales pitch, convinced me. So I sent it to them, and in October of 2021, we he signed a contract, and as it took 2 years of editing and making sure the stories were as good as they could be, but now the book's out, and it's slowly but surely um gaining reviews, and people are telling me that they like it. They find a lot of it very scary. They like the ghost stories, they like the budding serial killers, they like the carnivorous horses.
Who wouldn't like a carnivorous horse?
Well, I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't want to be face to face with one, but yeah, for a horror fan,
Maybe too
that's probably candy.
much. That's
But
good.
yeah, so oh, it's been a lot of hard work to get this collection out. I'm really happy that people are enjoying it. It's currently only available in ebook, but if it continues to do well, we might get a paperback. So I'm hopeful.
Nice.
I
So,
actually have some. Oh, you first.
oh no, go ahead. If you had something to say, go ahead.
I actually have a couple of funny stories from the writing and editing process
Yeah.
of Hannah. For one thing, the first story in the collection is obviously called Hannah, and I'm Jewish, so I know a lot of people with the first name Hannah. Uh, so when I announced that I had a story named Hannah that I written and that it was coming out, I had a couple contact me and be like, Rami, did you write a story about me? I even had a friend come up to me at a party once and be like, Rami, what's this I hear about you writing a story about me? This is someone I've known since like the fourth or fifth grade.
Oh
So,
man.
and I, it was like to all of them, um, you're going to have to read the book to find out if it's about you. But really, it's not. The Hannah in the story is based on someone with a similar name, but it's not based on anyone I know personally. I'm still waiting for someone to figure out who, though, because I know someone's gonna figure it out eventually and be like, "Hey, is this story based on so and so?" But so
Was it
far,
like
no
a
hits.
celebrity, like somebody I would know, maybe? Like I'm
More like someone from an urban legend.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so for anybody watching this now and you go and you read Hannah, like let us know who you think that this is about because now I need to know. And you're gonna tell me though, right? After this is over.
Sure, off the record, if the recording stopped, I'll tell you
Okay.
who. I will say, that there are more than a few movies and comic books about this character, so that might help.
Oh, okay.
I
All
won't
right.
get any more specific than that while we're recording.
Okay. Okay. So we'll keep
Um,
our lips. What if I guess it? Like, will you confirm? I'm kidding. No, we can we can move on. Um, But speaking of books that you have written, I did see that you have put forth a book that you intend to enter into the indie brawl for 2024.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
The Pure World Comes. That is my love letter to Gothic horror and to Victorian literature.
Nice.
Er, I spent 5 years researching this story before I even
Oh.
started writing it. That's how devoted I was to making sure I told this story correctly. It takes place in the Victorian era
Mhm.
and follows a maid who goes to work at the home of a mad scientist. When I'm at conventions, I characterize it as like Frankenstein and Crimson Peak had a baby together.
That's amazing. So the indie brawl is quite the event. So if you could like sell this, I feel like you already did. So if you could sell it to the group right now in 5 words or less, like what would you say? I feel like you just did that though. Never
Mm,
mind.
yeah, it would be hard to do without spoiling anything.
Okay.
I will say though that the scariest scene in the book, I mean, there are a couple of freaky scenes and it's got a very intriguing storyline that's also pretty fast paced, but the scariest scene involves a toilet. I've literally, you know that scene in Dreamcatcher by Stephen King where the guys on the toilet, and that was like Stephen King trying to make the toilet as scary as Psycho made the shower, but it kind of failed.
And it definitely didn't work. Yeah.
I am no Stephen King, far from it, but I have been told by people who've read the book that that I succeeded where King failed in that regard. And I'm like, okay, that is the biggest compliment you could give me. I don't know if I can really accept it because, like I said, I'm no king, but I'm really flattered you would say that.
That I feel like that's a very, very brave thing for you to say. So now everybody has to go pick up this book. And
Please.
worst case scenario, you find out that no, you are no Stephen King. But
I
best
already
case
knew
scenario,
that.
people will be very, very impressed with your toilet scaring skills, which
I
I can
would
only
love it.
imagine what's going to happen with this toilet now. You're very good at kind of teasing people into wanting to read your books. That's for sure.
I do try because um I'm still working on that name recognition thing. So it takes a lot of work to get your name out there to get people interested in reading your books in the first place. So you got to have one hell of an elevator pitch if you want them to even consider picking up your book and taking it home with them, let alone reading it. Thankfully, I think a lot of people have been receptive to my work, and more or so every year. Or, or
Great.
I mean, it requires a lot of hard work, and you got to go. Sometimes you go the extra mile just to make sure that the story comes out well.
Mhm.
Oh, I kid you not. This past May, I was doing a convention at a former prison, selling my books, and yeah, the Ohio State Reformatory has this convention called Parapsychon every May. And I was there this past year, and I was also at the time editing one of the stories in Hannah. And that it was the one with the most edits too, because we had to cut out like uh 20,000 words from it, 20,000 words of just meandering plot just to make it a bit more succinct, a bit more catchy.
Yeah.
And I kid you not, I was up working past midnight just trying to get this thing edited, and I was running out of strength. So I basically he went to bed and got up at 5:30 in the morning, finished editing that story, and then went to the convention on only a few hours sleep to sell
Oh
more
wow.
books.
Oh God.
They,
That's a
I don't know how I did it. I don't know how the work ended up so good despite all that. And I'm my most the one thing I remember from that day is telling someone about the book and how it has carnivorous horses in it, and then and being like, I work on a horse ranch. I don't think I could read that.
no. Well, maybe you should read it. Maybe it would be in your benefit to read it. But I
They
feel
do
like a
say
lot of
that horror stories do make a good prep, a good way to prep. I mean, how many people know what to do during a zombie apocalypse just because they watched The Walking Dead or The Last of Us?
oh true. Well, The Walking Dead, all that taught me was that I will be the first to die. I'd be like zombie number one. Like that would be me. But that's just me. I feel like a lot of people work like really well under pressure though. So I as much as I appreciate a good night's sleep, I feel like knowing that you only have a very short amount of time to get something perfect, like just kind of pushes you and makes you do better than you would in 5 hours of time. You know what I mean? So
I can
yeah.
get that. I mean, like, I have a day job and my time's pretty limited, but I feel like that drives me to write better stories so that someday I could maybe write full time. I'm working on quite a lot of different stuff right now, and I feel like it's some really good work that maybe has a shot of getting published. Whether or not it'll make all my dreams come true, that's another matter entirely.
Yeah, that's the challenge. I know a lot of people in our books of horror group especially, um it's fun, and you have a sense of accomplishment, and you're like really proud of what you put out, and everybody in the group is so supportive. It's kind of hard to move out past that, you know what I mean? So I wish you the best of luck with that.
Thank
We have more
you.
to talk about. It sounded like I'm signing off, but we're not. We have more to talk about.
I'm happy to keep talking for as long as you'll have me.
Okay. Well, at max 40 minutes because my Zoom will kick us out. But so I heard a little birdie told me, and that little birdie is you, that you have some unique hobbies that you would like to share with us.
Yeah, I do. For one thing, I read tarot cards every day.
Me too.
Nice. What deck do you have?
I actually have a horror deck. Let's see.
Oh,
I have the
cool.
original. I have the original Rider Waite deck from my mom. I only just got it maybe a few months ago. She had passed away a long time ago. I didn't know she had it. It was given to me. I'm like, oh my god! But before that, I don't have it on me right now. But I have an actual horror deck.
I have the Gilded Tarot deck from I forget his name, but he's like some sort of Italian artist, as well as a Ghost Tarot deck. And that one I take with me to events, and I'll do readings for like $10 a pop. And it's a good way to make a little extra income while you're selling books. I got into tarot reading during the pandemic. I mean, I had a deck before, but I never really used it. But during the pandemic, I thought, heck, this could be something fun to help pass the time. And yeah, it was fun to learn. And I started using it at events, and now I'm doing it every day, and I find it really helpful. Uh, Another hobby I do is I make my own homemade wine.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it was I got I got a kit for it a few years ago as a birthday present, and I just started making wine, and I've made three batches. One was plum wine, which was really good. Another was it didn't go so well. It actually went bad. And right now I'm working on a pumpkin wine.
Ooh,
Yeah,
nice.
you can make wine just about out of any vegetable matter, and then some things that aren't even vegetables, or plants at all. And
So like
so
no grapes at all. Like I was always under the impression it was all grapes, but you could just
oh, grapes are usually what wine is made of, and maybe someday I'll do that. But you can make wine out of plums, blueberries, apples, honey, rosemary, garlic. Dandelions is popular.
you
There's
lost me at garlic though. I'm not sure how I feel about garlic wine.
I would avoid that. I suggested to my sisters that I'd make a broccoli wine one of these days, and I nearly got my head bitten off for that.
That's shocking news. It's weird that nobody would want to try that.
Yeah, I decided to go for a different kind of green colored wine. I'm actually going through the rainbow. Plum was red, pumpkin will be orange, dandelion will be yellow, mint will be green, blueberry will be blue, obviously, and for purple violet, I'm going to go with elderberries.
Oh wow.
I've had elderberry wine. It is so good.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I think out
Yeah.
of all of those, I'd be most interested to try the pumpkin and the mint because those, first, I love pumpkin everything because I'm very basic, but
Oh yeah.
but mint wine, like that's just to me very curious. So once you become a famous winemaker, I can't wait to buy that in the stores.
I would love for that to happen. I don't know if it will, just because of how much a pain in the ass being a wine maker and seller would be, but I am willing to try if uh if destiny says it's the way I should do things. If the stars are aligned correctly and the writing thing's working out, and I can make that, if I can make writing my main hustle and winemaking my side hustle, then maybe.
There we go. Everything gets like a bit of a promotion, like everything moves up, and then eventually you'll be done with writing, and then winemaking will be your only like your main thing, and then your next thing will be tarot cards, maybe.
I was
Keep
thinking
progressing.
I was thinking more along the lines of summoning demon to do my bidding.
Well, that's very morbid of you.
You, I try my best.
That would be really fun. Have you ever tried like a seance or anything like that?
I actually do a little bit of voodoo.
Oh yeah. Do you
Yeah,
have like
I'm
dolls that you?
no, but I do have. I've been to New Orleans before, and I did hang around some of the voodoo shops there, and I've bought spells from them actually that I on occasion use. And actually, later this week, I plan on doing a spell to bring me good luck on the writing career in 2024.
That's
I did something around this time of year last year for 2023, and I don't know if it's just my own talent or maybe the Loa, the spirits have been helping me out, but
awesome.
I've had a pretty good year. I mean, Hannah's doing well. I've published a few things. They've sold a lot of books, so maybe there's something to this, and maybe doing a ritual for 2024 will be helpful.
That's a great idea. Honestly, like I feel like the spirits have spoken. All they wanted was for you to reach out, and that's all it took. And so now, in 2, 3 years, we're going to be seeing your name on the bestseller list,
Oh,
and then
from
we're
your
all
mouth
going
to
to know how to
God's
pronounce it.
ears.
What?
From your mouth to God's ears.
Yes.
I would love that. I would love. Actually, I did a tarot reading not too long ago, asking if it would be possible that I'll be writing full time before I'm 35, and I got some good signs of. I
Yeah.
think the world card was featured prominently in that reading, which for those of you who don't know is like triumph, success, achievement. It's all you're the master. You've got this.
All right. I should have you do a reading for me. I'm just very quickly, I love the idea of becoming a writer, but I'm stuck at the like pushing myself to actually get started stage. So I like that I'm able to kind of talk with authors, and that gives me kind of a sense of, hey, you know what, I could probably do this, which leads me into my next question, which is, what advice would you give somebody who is trying to get into the writing and publishing and just kind of can't really break the surface, or is just having trouble starting?
Well, the advice I always give is carve out that time, really commit, decide to dedicate yourself and carve out that time because that time's not going to find you. A time fairy isn't just going to pop into your room one day and you say, okay, bibbity bobbity boo, here's a couple of hours to work on that novel. You really got to dedicate yourself, got to carve out time. Yeah, it might mean not doing a lot of other things you want to do. Ooh, but you got to do it. And if you really feel passionate about it, you'll get it done. I mean, Stephen King, before Carrie hit it big, he was writing 2,500 words a day from a laundry room in his trailer with his wife and three kids in the other room.
Oh man, I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, he was basically he was living around the poverty line back then. And he was working as a teacher with a side job as a gas station attendant and writing whenever he could, but he still managed to get those words out. And now look at him. He's got a nice big Victorian house with back and decorated fence around the property in Maine.
Yeah, yeah, he's living life, and he's still cranking out books too. Like if I were him, I'd be like, okay, just calm down, just live your life. But no, he's still pumping them out.
At
I don't
least
know
he's
where.
giving all the other authors a chance at the Bram Stoker Awards.
It's very kind of him. Very generous.
Oh, speaking of which, when I was submitting Hannah and a short story that got published this year for the Bram Stoker Awards, there's this thing you can do where you can send out a mass email to the rest of the Horror Writers Association asking if they want to um, read your works for consideration. It's a great way to promote it. And next to Stephen King's name in the database for the authors, it says, don't send me any promotional materials. Uh, and I was like, okay, that's the, I can see why you would do that and why you won't list your contact info.
Yeah, I was gonna say it'd be very silly of him to put himself on a list, like, and then be like, no, don't contact me. Because I'd be like, well, I'm gonna do it anyway.
And probably never get heard from again.
Yeah, it's true. They kick me out. That's what would happen. Um, so we don't actually have a whole lot of time left. So I'm just going to ask you one more question about, so what are you working on next? What can we expect coming up?
Well, I've just finished a whole ton of editing on a whole bunch of works that I'm either in the process of sending out or waiting to hear back from beta readers. So now I'm just working on some new stories. I finished a short story about a week or two ago. I'm working on one right now that draws on my Jewish heritage, as well as some Kabbalah and demonology. And I hope to start writing a story very soon involving owls that I'm very excited about.
Awesome.
And hopefully, before too long, I'll be able to get back to this novel I started last year about a mummy. So hopefully, all those works pan out and I can uh, get them published.
That's awesome. Looks like you've got a lot on your plate right now, a lot of good stuff coming up. Thank you so much for being here with me. I am so excited to read all of your stories. I can't wait to figure out who Hannah is based off of. I'm going to read it first, and then I'm going to see if I can guess, and then
Good luck.
I'll be wrong.
If you actually get it right, I might give you a prize. We'll see.
All right. Okay. Deal. On that
If
note,
anyone gets it right and contacts me first, they get a prize.
okay. I can't wait to find out what the prize is. Now I need to know. All right. I'm going to sign up before this kicks us off. So thank you so much, Rami. I will talk to you later.
Thank you for having me. And to all of you who are watching this, pleasant nightmares.
All right. Bye.